it's more important to be buried with valuable things. There's going to be even more valuable stuff in there that they're going to try to protect. So,
are they mummifying them at this point too?
well, here's the interesting thing. The Egyptians embalm people. The entire mummifying process, we call it mummification. The Egyptians don't mummify people. The desert mummifies them naturally. They discovered the fact that the desert dries out the body and mummifies these people. It's another gift that Egypt naturally gave these people, because they, rather than burying them in this rich soil where they just erode away and turn to nothing, eventually they want to take them, let's bury them out there, bury them out in the desert. And so they clear away this sand pit burial, that they bury them in the sand. And then, it probably begins as like, Grandpa really liked this vase. He really liked this turquoise jewelry. Well, I don't want it. Let's just bury it with him. You bury it in there, and then there's some other guy out there who maybe he helped you bury your grandpa, and he didn't want to say, I would really like to have that vase. I really like to have that jewelry. I'd be able to give it to my wife. He doesn't want to say that to you, but he goes out and violates your grandpa's tomb and digs it up and steals it. And then when you want to go visit your grandpa and go see your grandpa's body, or maybe at some point they come up with this idea that exhuming people should be done, that they want to dig back up their dead ancestors and see them. Somewhere along the way, they returned to a sandpit burial and realized two things. One, the tomb had been violated, and all the things I gave my beloved grandpa, somebody has stolen them. That's insulting.
Blow.
Two, why doesn't their body look that decayed? Why doesn't it look as decayed as it did when we were burying people in the Black Land? And we don't really know exactly how they made sense of that, but superstition begins then. One, I don't want people violating anybody's grave. You don't take things from them in the afterlife. And what if that hurts my grandpa? What if he had these things in the afterlife? I mean, these are things you think about laying up at night. So put yourself in remote history before Egypt has really even began. Think about a guy sitting in his little mud brick adobe hut who farms every day, and all he does is just think. He's not listening to music. He's just thinking. And thinking. And think about how quickly religion, cults, superstitions form, when all you do is think all the time, and while you're working, of course they partied a lot, but you have a lot more time to sit around and think about the world that you actively live in. You can't just sink into a phone, right? So other things happen, other obsessions happen. And so you come away with two things. One, somebody has violated this person's grave, and they keep doing it. And every time that we go out to where we bury bodies, all of the bodies are dug up and all their stuff stolen. So you start developing superstition about that. Two, there must be something important to the bodies being naturally mummified and being preserved in the sand like this. Of course, they don't look like they're a living person, but they don't look like a skeleton.
Yeah, they're not
either.
Disintegrated.
Yeah, they're not disintegrated. So obsession begins. And we see this slow change from people burying people in pits. Well, what do you do to stop a sandpit burial from being violated? Let's just cover it with heavy stones. Just bury them deep in the sand and just put a bunch of stones on top of it. And that'll be enough of a deterrent for somebody to be like, that's not even worth it. We'll just get all these sandpit burials. When all the other sandpit burials start doing it too, you go, okay, well, let's just start removing the stones. And then when they remove the stones, they figure out that, because people thought we wouldn't bring out all these stones, they started putting more valuable things in there. And now that the superstition is beginning that it's more important to be buried with valuable things, there's going to be even more valuable stuff in there that they're going to try to protect. So the stone-covered sandpit burials, with just a mound of stones, it doesn't work anymore. So they go, oh my God, what are we going to do? All right, rather than sand, let's go find some bedrock and chisel a tunnel into the bedrock, and let's bury somebody in a tunnel under the ground, and then let's hide the entrance. And then those are still found. Okay, well, we can't hide the entrance anymore because people are going to find it. All right. Let's just build a building like we build a house, but the only thing in the building is a body. So there's no vacancies or there's no hollow chambers. It's just a little slot for a body. Like, think about a sarcophagus with a big building around it as the outer wall, right? But then people still people still pull up all the blocks and get to the body and take all of it anyways. And they go, what the hell are we going to do?
Yeah.
So we build a big tunnel under the ground like this one right here. And then we're going to build a big building on top of it.
How deep is that tunnel approximately?
They're all different. There's thousands of these, dude.
And there wasn't like a standard.
No, they're personalized to everybody.
Wow.
It depends on the amount of wealth that you had. It depends on what you were able to hire other people to do for you. You know, this is expensive work, by the way. Like, you know, you were spending a significant amount of the money a significant amount of the resources that you had in life to get this done for you. And so, you know, a shaft going straight into the ground like that, they vary from 6 feet to 50 or 60 feet.
50 or 60 feet.
Yeah. And sometimes they go at all different angles. You know, sometimes you have them descending 45 degrees. Sometimes they're straight down and they lead to a chamber. And you can only assume that once upon a time there's a wooden ladder going down. And so they build a big building on top of it. And these buildings still get quarried away. And they start to get creative with like, okay, well, we can make door jambs. Like we can have this long hallway that's carved out of bedrock, but it doesn't matter. Nobody will be able to dig down into it or sneak into it because we'll have this. We'll go get granite instead from Aswan. Think about how expensive this is. I mean, this is northern Egypt. You got to bring the granite up from southern Egypt, 500 miles away, to get this block of granite, and you're going to slide it in place. It's called a portcullis. You're going to slide it in place in front of the chamber that leads to the tomb, and that's going to stop people. It doesn't stop people. Nothing stopped these people from getting into tombs. And how do we know this?
Guys, if you're still watching this video and you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please take 2 seconds and go hit it right now. Thank you.
Because, dude, it's not just a handful of tombs. It's thousands of them. Thousands of them. And sometimes they have bodies and remains inside that we can carbon date.
Well, quick question. You said that obviously Egyptians were just incredibly wealthy across the board, but there had to still be some people who weren't wealthy, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. You know, when I say wealth, I don't necessarily just mean money. I mean, you're living in the most beautiful place on the known world with the most wealth around you that anybody has seen.
In what was then like the first world society that existed.
Sure.
But meaning there's still class structures, as you said.
Absolutely.
Some people are more wealthy than others.
Absolutely.
But there's people who are beneath the wealth levels of being able to even do this, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So what did they do with their dead?
They would sometimes they had paupers' graves. Sometimes they're
Paupers?
Yeah, you know, that's not an Egyptian term. It's just a term that we have for poor people.
Oh, like pauper.
Pauper, yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
Your fucking Texas accent is killing me.
Sorry.
Like pauper's grave.
Gotta use damn pauper's grave
fuck?
out here, boy. But you know, they're just thrown in these pit graves, and we found out in the deserts, there are people who are just thrown in massive holes. You know, what I mean, there's this big open hole, and you're all you were was say a slave. You know, there were slaves in Egypt, and all you were was a slave, and you couldn't even afford. So get this, you know, we know that superstition and obsession with death and the afterlife. It wasn't like there was this dark obsession. It was actually a beautiful obsession. So, you know, when we think about people who are obsessed with death, it sounds like it's so dark. No. They fantasized about it. They looked forward to it. They were expecting it to come. They wanted it to come because the next world was going to be better. It's not really about the death. It's about preparing to enter into the next place.
At the time period we're in, what did they think of the next world? What was the religious context there?
Well, you know, this is kind of getting into Egyptian mythology, which is, you know, you can only go through Egypt so quickly. You know, Egyptian mythology isn't my understanding, more so anthropology. You know, you have mythology, how they understood their religion. Mine is anthropology of what they lived their lives like. And so I'm kind of just now getting to the point where I'm going to start studying Egyptian gods, which are closely tied into their perception of their world.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.